In 1838, a young man stood at the edge of this harbor. He was 20 years old. He was terrified, and he was owned by another human being. He had one chance, one train, one disguise, one moment where everything, his life, his future, his freedom, balanced on a single decision. His name was Frederick Douglass, and we brought him back. Frederick Douglass was born into slavery in Talbot County, Maryland, around 1818. He never knew his exact birthday. Enslaved people were rarely given that dignity. His mother, Harriet Bailey, was taken from him before he could form memories of her. He was raised by his grandmother, then sent to work for a series of slaveholders across Maryland. But something happened that would change everything and terrify his enslavers. He learned to read. It started with a woman named Sophia Auld, the wife of his Baltimore slaveholder. She began teaching him the alphabet until her husband stopped her. Hugh Auld told her directly, "If you teach a slave to read, he becomes unfit to be a slave." Douglass heard those words, and he understood them completely. From that moment, I understood the pathway from slavery to freedom. He taught himself to read in secret. He traded bread with poor white children in exchange for reading lessons. He read newspapers, political pamphlets, anything he could find. And the more he read, the more unbearable his captivity became. By 1838, Douglass was 20 years old and working at the Baltimore shipyards, caulking ships. He earned wages, but every cent went directly to his enslaver, Thomas Auld. He had tried to escape once before and failed. The punishment for a failed escape was brutal and public. But this time, he had a plan. A free black sailor lent him his identification papers, called Sailor's Protection Papers, which described the sailor's appearance. The description didn't perfectly match Douglass, but it was close enough. On September 3rd, 1838, Frederick Douglass walked to the train station near Baltimore Harbor. He wore a sailor's uniform. He carried borrowed papers. His heart was hammering so hard, he was certain someone would hear it. The train conductor checked his papers. Douglass held his breath. The conductor moved on. Within 24 hours, Frederick Douglass was in New York. He was free. The entire escape, from the decision to the moment he crossed into free territory, took less than a day. He had escaped through the very harbor where he had loaded ships, earned wages he never kept, and watched the sailboats on the water and wondered if freedom was possible. Now, imagine bringing Frederick Douglass back. Not the broken young man who fled in terror, but the man he became. The man who became the most photographed American of the 19th century. Because he believed photographs could destroy the myth that black people were less than human. The man who wrote 3 autobiographies, who advised Abraham Lincoln, who spoke before crowds of thousands in Europe when America still refused to hear him, who fought for women's suffrage decades before most men would consider it. Bring that man back to Baltimore Harbor. What does he see? The waterfront where he once loaded cargo and watched his wages disappear into his enslaver's pocket is now a festival marketplace. The Inner Harbor is one of the most visited tourist destinations on the East Coast. There are paddle boats. There are restaurants with outdoor seating, families eating ice cream, children running along the waterfront, pointing at the USS Constellation, a historic ship docked permanently in the harbor as a museum piece. There are hotels, a convention center, an aquarium, and somewhere in the middle of all this, a small bronze statue of Frederick Douglass himself, standing near the spot where he once feared for his life. Tourists take selfies with it.
I know this water. I know the smell of it, the sound of it against the hull of a ship. I spent years here, loading cargo onto vessels that would sail to places I was forbidden to go. I watched free men board those ships as though it were nothing, as though movement itself were not a miracle. I stood at this edge and I made the calculation that every enslaved person makes in secret. What is the cost of trying, and what is the cost of staying? Which death is slower? And now, they have put a statue of me here. I confess I do not know whether to laugh or to weep. They have made this harbor beautiful. That is good. Beauty is not nothing. These children running along the waterfront, of every color, of every face, that is not nothing. That is something I could not have imagined on the morning I fled. But I want to ask them something. I want to stop one of these tourists, one of these people photographing my face on their small, glowing devices, and ask them, do you know what happened here? Not the festival, not the aquarium. Do you know what this water witnessed? I fought for a country that did not yet believe I was a man. I spent my entire life arguing for something that should have required no argument. I wrote my own story 3 times because I knew that if I did not write it, someone else would erase it. America remembers me now. They name schools after me. They commission statues. But I wonder sometimes whether remembering a man is easier than listening to him. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. I want to know. Are you still demanding? Or have you put me in bronze and called it finished? This harbor is beautiful, and I am glad to see the children running free along its edge. But I did not escape so that my face could become a backdrop for photographs. I escaped so that one day no one would have to. We are not finished.
Frederick Douglass died in 1895, having lived long enough to see slavery abolished and long enough to see the betrayal of Reconstruction begin. He never stopped speaking, never stopped writing, never stopped demanding. The harbor he escaped through is now one of the most photographed places in Maryland, and somewhere on its waterfront, a bronze version of him stands in permanent return, looking out at the water he once crossed in terror, watching the city he helped change go about its day. They made history. Now they face it. This has been Returned from History. New episodes every week. Subscribe so you never miss a return. Every place you walk through has a story. The harbor where someone fled for their life. The street where an idea changed the world. The building where history turned on a single decision. Most people walk right past them. Lore changes that. Lore is the app that finds the stories of wherever you are and brings them to you in real time. History, mystery, food, culture. The stories that made this place what it is today. Download Lore and never walk past a story again.